Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. Now, today we are having technical issues. Don't you just love it when that happens? But I have a beautiful guest, Louise Fitzgerald-Baker, and I'm so excited about having to talk to her, but I can't hear her. So I don't know what we're going to do. Louise, I want you to talk. At the moment, no one else has come into our live stream. Oh, yes, we do. We do have some people. Hello, everybody. Yay, technical issues. Okay. Louise, can you speak and let's see if they can hear you? Hello, Beverly. Hi. Hello, Darls.
Hello,
Louise, speak and see if they can hear you.
Hello, and I'll just see if you can hear me, if you can signal to Karen that you can hear me okay. Can anyone hear me?
Okay. Can anyone hear Louise? Is it just me that can't hear her?
If I keep talking, let me know.
So Louise, what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation where you talk and I can't hear you, but everyone else can. Now, just before we go too far, we don't give messages, Eve. We are here. We're going to actually talk to you today about financial resilience. That's what Louise talks about. So, Louise, you talk, and I'm going to post some stuff. This is so annoying. I can't hear you because we could have had a beautiful conversation, but obviously I'm just going with this is what Spirit wants from us. So we're just going to go with it. So, Louise, you start talking and let everyone know what you do and how beautiful you are. I'll put some notes in the show notes and then we'll come along.
Okay. So I'll have a one-way conversation because I can't hear. I can obviously hear what Karen's saying, which is great. But she is the go-between between what you guys are hearing and seeing and herself. So if you've got any particular questions or comments or things you'd like to ask, can I suggest that you pop them in the chat so that Karen can relay them to me and I can in that way be sure that I am hearing from you and having some form of communication. So good morning, everyone. My name is Louise Fitzgerald-Baker and I'm the author of the book, The Pink Hard Hat. And that is a metaphor, as Karen said, of female financial resilience. And the reason why I chose that metaphor is because for years I've been on a building site. And when you go on a building site, you wear a hard hat to protect what's important, a high-vis vest and steel cap boots. So my message to women is to take care of your numbers, like wear a hard hat, protect what's important, stay visible in your relationships, and build the capacity to walk wherever and whenever you please. And that is really my life's work and mission, because I find many of us, and myself included, my journey has been one where at various stages of my life and time, I've had and lived through interruption, which I'm sure we've all had. And the whole reason you come through that is so you can pave the way for someone else to follow. So in that space, that's what I do today. I talk to women about financial resilience and resilience per se. So when many of us are talking about resilience, we're talking about mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual. And that's all well and good, but my philosophy is this. When life and interruptions happen, it's really the first punch that brings you down, but the second. And it's not the interruption per se, but the financial devastation that can follow. So in my particular case, that happened to me back in 2003. When my husband told me he was leaving. The Iraq War was called and he was a reservist soldier, so he was invited along. And I remember saying, well, why do you have to go when we have a 2 and a 4-year-old? To which he responded, well, Lou, how can I not go when we have a 2 and a 4-year-old? So with all the nobility that represented, I found myself in a place where I was unprepared. I didn't know I'd married a soldier. Admittedly, he he was wearing a uniform at the wedding. But notwithstanding that, I didn't know that's what I'd signed on for. Like, we weren't living on a base and we didn't have free dental. And I actually had thought he was going to stay in the suburb of Carindale, where we were living at the time, and go to work and just live an ordinary life. I hadn't imagined or envisioned, for our family at least, that he would be catapulted to the other side of the world, where, quite frankly, they cut off all contact. We had no way of knowing where he was, and indeed if he was safe. And back then, I can hear you breathing, Karen, so that's really good. I think I can hear you now. So back then, we weren't worried about COVID. We were worried about anthrax. It was the very beginning of chemical warfare, and uncertainty was ahead. And it was through that place I made the first decision that changed my life. And that is, when disruption and interruption happens, you may not be able to control everything that's happening to you and for you, but in that place, you can take control of what you can. And so that's where it began, and was the beginning of my financial, everything that's happening to you, but in that place, you can take control of what you can. And so the question now, I can hear you. My financial, everything that's happening to you, but in that place.
Okay, I have now got you on my phone, and I'm listening to you that way. It's going to be a bit of a delay, but anyway, we'll get there. Can hear your feedback, Karen. I thought you'd probably be able to hear my feedback. So what I'll do is, when I'm talking, I'll turn me off. It's going to be a bit of a delay, but anyway, we'll get there. No, that's not working either. Can hear your feedback, Karen. I thought you'd probably be able to hear my feedback. Now wait on. How am I going to do this? Is when I'm talking, I'll turn me. This is so frustrating. I cannot believe my audio's gone off. Okay, we're going to get there.
Is there a way I can see the
I've turned it off. Louise, I'm not 100% sure of what you've said, but I know how amazing you are. So I've got a question for you. Have you got headphones for your phone? Good idea. I will go and get some. Louise, keep talking. I'll be back.
Different, isn't it? Just do a chat then. So essentially that was the beginning of my financial education, because I knew that essentially I couldn't control what was happening to him over there, and the very level best I could do was to be there for my own children and create a space where I didn't have to leave them to go to work. And so that was where and how I guess I grew up, because sometimes you are prematurely yanked out of your bubble, and you have to find the wherewithal to move forward. So I don't know where you are and where this finds you today, but if you've come to a place where life's interrupted you and there's been a dramatic shift that you didn't see coming, it might be health, it might be redundancy, it might have been COVID's impact, of course, it might have been the loss of a relationship, then wherever this place finds you, just know that the way forward is based on what you do next, because the next chapter hasn't been written yet. And you'll find that people and opportunities come into your life. Karen is always saying to us, it's not what happens to you, it's what happens for you. And in that place, you do begin to seize back some control. And as you navigate a way forward and create a space of greater control, then you can feel greater calm in that. So where I sit now is a lot of the work that I do with and for and beside women is about helping them feel stronger physically and financially. Because what I found in the research that I did was that it was rarely the case that women had both. So there were a lot of women at one end of the spectrum that had wealth but not well-being, who were stressed out, bored, unstimulated, or lacking purpose. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there were women who actually had maybe a sense of well-being, but had no financial resilience. So should something interrupt or happen to them, they just didn't feel that they were in a place that they had strength. And so what we can do now is we bring it together. So you've got both the wealth and the well-being, and you come to a place where you go, regardless of what happens in my circumstances, I know I'll be okay. So, Karen, did you have a question for me? I think there's a little bit of feedback. So I guess really where I'm coming to today is we were talking about...
Louise, can you hear me now? Okay, cool. Rightio, because yes, I do. I can now hear you. Yay! But first of all, I'd like to just say, how good were we? We were annoyed, but we...
Karen, you've stopped talking.
Is there a delay? Okay, there's a delay in our conversation. That's not going to be very good. I've just realised that. Okay, Louise, I know how good you are, right? So because we're on the spiritual events directory, what's your thoughts on... Okay. I'm getting feedback. Anyway, I'm going to ask the question. What our spiritual connection to money, right, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think money is really interesting, and it's a complex relationship with money, and how it shows up in your life is a reflection of a lot of other things that are happening in your life. And so none of it is mutually exclusive. So where you lack confidence in life and where you lack confidence in money and relationships, it's all related. So reverse engineering it from that, if you can find a space where you have confidence in and around your ability to not only make money, but also keep it and grow it, then you are in a place where you can show up differently because you've got choices. You've got choices. You're financially equipped to be able to move and walk whenever and wherever you please. And there are a lot of women today, no matter where we find ourselves, in the sense that our four sisters have fought for scores of years to put us in a place where we have a greater financial contribution. And we do. Many of us are educated and most of us are working. In fact, our participation rates in the workforce have never been stronger. But somehow we're being left behind. And it's not just about gender pay gap differences. It's about our ability to go that step beyond in terms of not just earning money, paying bills, but actually making a gap and creating the space to invest money, to actually grow it, to create a place of leverage. Now, I should just say I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give legal advice, but I am a woman who has discovered some of the levers to pull to be able to find greater abundance in my life financially. And it gives you that financial security gives you permission to show up in a different way. So my grandmother was the first person to share that legacy, and her story was one I think you'll find quite compelling. She went with the years. So in 1975, when this story began, she was 75 years old. And my brother, who was then 18, actually went to visit her. A little bit like a Red Riding Hood, but this is a true story. So he goes and he knocks on the door, but she doesn't answer. He looks through and he sees that she's fallen. So he manages to find the spare key, get inside. He runs to her. He puts her head under a pillow and he says, "Dode, are you okay?" And she gestures to the other room. He gets her an ambulance and goes to the bedroom. He looks around for what she might be asking for. He looks under the bed and there he finds a lead-lined police baton from the 1940s and a set of nunchucks. You know what they are? They're actually a weapon. And he comes back as if to say, "What are you doing with this stuff? What's my mom and grandmother doing with this stuff?" And then she gestures, "Go back again." So this time he goes back again. And he lifts up the mattress and there he finds thousands and thousands of $20 and $50 bills. $75,000, in fact. Now, back in 1979, that was no small sum of money. In fact, it had the buying power equivalent to $1 million today. Can you imagine? She was sleeping on a spare $1 million. Now, I don't know what happened to the money, but I can tell you this. My grandmother handed down to us a legacy far greater, and that was the gift of financial resilience. So what she taught us is this truth, and that's all of us. Hope and wish we could sleep on a mattress of cash. And not just for the sake of the money, of course that would be lovely, but for the peace of mind and knowing that regardless of what happens to us, we know we're going to be okay. And so women today are no different. In my grandmother's story, as I said, the legacy she passed down was this capacity to be, do, and have a life we adore. And we do it through looking after ourselves physically, preparing ourselves emotionally, getting our head in the right place so we can show up, and then also financially to be able to be in charge of our own destiny, regardless who is in our story. Does that make sense? So if we can combine the physical capacity, the steel cap boots, like I said, on a building site, and the high vis and the hat, then we actually show up with our high vis vest in all our perfect glory. And that is essentially what it's all about. Now, I know you're still listening to me, Karen, so feel free to interrupt me with a question, or even reading any of the questions in the chat from any of those people, anyone listening.
Okay, Louise. So I love that story. I've heard it a few times and I absolutely love it. But I want to go back. There's Beverly has written here. I thought I had. I'm not.
You're good.
That's what I'm about to say. I don't know if you can.
I can hear you. You're good.
Okay, there's a delay. Okay. Beverly's written, separated with 4 kids, impacted the financial, now in my 7th year, and have finally bought myself back. So what would you say to the other Beverlys of the world who are just separated, got young kids? How can they actually put a nest egg away?
Congratulations, Beverly. I'm so glad that you can join us today, and bravo, that is no small feat. With 4 kids separated, I would say that the first thing I would see is that when you've come through a separation, for many of us, it just, it hits us emotionally, obviously, first. And so for many women, the first thing they want to do is they just say, I just want to leave it cordial. And I just want to make sure that the relationship is intact and that, you know, I can leave on good terms regardless of what has happened between us. But I would say this, it's a long ahead. And so regardless of your emotional fragility, do your very level best to get good legal advice about what your entitlements are, and then make sure you access them for the sake of the kids. Because you do have rights and entitlements which have been fought for in the last several generations. And I don't know what happened in Beverly's case, but I can say that as much as you might not have the wherewithal in the very beginning, do try for the sake of what's to come, because you absolutely need some financial support in the beginning as you begin to navigate a new pathway. And then beyond that, it's about getting some clarity about where you sit financially. So ultimately, what do you have and what do you spend and what is left over for you to save? And you have to get that basic equation right, because in that little gap of savings is the beginning of your pathway to freedom. And then invest in things that are going to generate a return for you. So that is ultimately the first step. It's about paying down debt as best and as quickly as you can. And it's about creating a small buffer, even if it's $10 a week, where you get in the habit of paying yourself and building and creating something, because energetically what you're actually doing is you're creating an expectation of more. You are just setting up a pathway to create and have more. And in that place is going to be your liberty. And then I would also say, don't forget to look after yourself. Like, it's a long time ahead with a lot on your plate, and you need to make sure that you take care of yourself. Get regular exercise, get the sleep you need, hydrate yourself, eat responsibly. As tempting as it is, and I've been there, to rely on sugar, caffeine and white wine to sludge through the day and wake myself up and then, get myself to a place where I need to wind off and then wind down and switch off. The truth is, you have to look after yourself. You're like the host, and these people in your life are depending on you. So as much as it sounds like common sense, it is so true about preserving your energy, strength and capacity so you can show up the way you want to in front of your kids. So you're not so tired and stressed and angry and triggered with everything that's going on. And then there's all the energetic work that you do alongside people like Karen that help you prepare, forgive, and put some of that behind you so that you can move on with an expectation of more greatness coming next chapter of joy. So I hope that helps in terms of acknowledging both the difficulty of it, and I don't mean to diminish it, but I do need to sow into your life the hope of what is ahead, because you're never, ever, ever alone. There are always people there to help.
Okay. Awesome, Louise. Thank you.
And do we have any other questions from the ladies watching, Karen?
Fabulous, Louise. Thank you. Beverly has said that's it, the good old LOA, a little bit here and a little bit there, and the money flowed in. All about planning a long year later. That's when it changed for me. Now, Diana has said, I'm in search for my first house purchase. Do you have any advice for me? And she's super excited about any advice would be appreciated.
Yes. Thanks, Diana. I don't give financial advice, but I can say this. It's a good time to buy at the moment. Quite honestly, interest rates have never been lower. And if you can get through the hurdles of getting a loan, it's a good time to buy a property. Buy and choose within the means. Choose a place that makes you happy. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it can be the small things like the way the sunlight hits the ground. And, choose a place that you feel safe and inspired and happy and joyful. And you can buy well in the current market. There is just so much out there that, particularly depending on whether you want a house or a unit even, supply certainly exceeds demand. In certain pockets of Brisbane, you find where the supply is greater than demand, and negotiate, because there's great deals to be had. And interest rates are ridiculous. They're so good at the moment, and we've never seen them this low. So money is so cheap, it's crazy not to do something with it.
If she has a loan approved.
Oh, good. Yeah. Cool. Well, go for it. Find a sunny place that makes you happy and feel inspired. That's, a place which is going to support you in more ways in terms of even logistically, so that where and if you need, for the kids to walk to public transport or to get to where they're going, and it's not going to be all on you, then be kind to yourself and think ahead in terms of capital growth. If you buy well, it's always in and how you buy, then you'll be rewarded in terms of capital growth. So that's just something to keep in mind. So my background has been property developing. That's essentially where I focused on. I was building in and around the city within about a 6K radius, and we were building townhouses and units essentially. What we focused on.
Okay, Louise, for some reason her progress has been stalled.
this is Diana or a new person? If you find yourself in a place where your progress is stalled, it's hard to know without knowing exactly what you mean. You mean financially or emotionally or just in life and business? Then I would say...
And she's actually saying that... No, say Diana has stalled in finding something.
Her progress is stalled. Oh, well, I would just say, what's the opportunity in that for you?
Finding a place.
Yeah. If you're willing for something to happen and it's not happening yet, then whatever is meant to be will come ahead, you know. So I'm always a person that is a great believer, as Karen is, in terms of signs, and I listen to what's going on. Everything is happening for us. So if there is a pause, then you're supposed to take a pause. If you know when in life, sometimes when things are meant to happen, it just happens, like it just all falls into place. And that's just when you know you are in alignment, I think, with what's supposed to happen next. For me in life, where things stall or stop, then there's either two ways. It's either a test of how much do I want it and what am I going to do and prepared to fight for it, or there's a sense of take heed and caution and maybe look a little deeper. So you have to read into where you're at to know what to do next with that. And I think the other thing I would say, and feel free to talk over me as you catch up, Karen, is that it's a long road ahead, and ladies, you should be planning now in 2020 for 2030. You know, the mistake I see...
Very good, Louise. There is a delay though, then this is really frustrating because I have so many questions.
Keep going. So the problem that I see women taking at the moment is, and probably because of 2020, it's been such a crazy year, is that we're literally living day to day, week to week. And in times of distress, that is understandable because you can only cope with so much. So you just go, if I can just get to the end of today, I'll be okay. If I can just get to the end of tomorrow, I'll be okay. And essentially, when life gets too overwhelming, shorten your goals. I'm a huge believer in goals, but shorten the lead time so that where and if you need to, it's just about surviving another day. However, when you come out of that space and you're able to breathe again, do lift your head from the page and start thinking forward. So with the women I work with today, we're talking today about where we want to be in 2030, about who we want to show up as in 2030. And then we're reverse engineering back to what do I need to do today to prepare for that. So as you're aware, it's all very well to have dreams and goals, but essentially, you know, goals are just dreams with their work boots on. So as you have dreams and passions and desires, first get yourself to a place where you can dream again. And then beyond that, put the action steps in place to say, if this is who I want to be in 2030, what choices, decisions, and preparation can I make now to become her? So if it's about showing up with greater energy, with greater joy, with greater capacity, then who do you need to be to become that woman? And you live into that. So don't sell yourself short and make sure that in this crazy time of COVID, you are looking after yourself, dealing with what you can each day, and where possible, focus as far forward as possible and reverse engineer back from that. And are there any other questions there, Karen, that you want to ask of me from the ladies? I hope it's helpful.
Love it. I'm sort of not going to talk because all I'm doing is delaying it. And no, not at the moment. Diana says, yes, COVID-19 restrictions here in Melbourne have affected my progress. I like hearing the future vision. That's great.
Mm. I've got friends and family in Melbourne, and I've got to say I really feel for you because it is hard. I know that idea of going out once a day, and for that 1 hour is really tricky. And honestly, in that space, it is about setting a little.
So Diana, I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah.
It's delaying.
I
think it's better for you to talk, Louise. I'm going to leave it over to you because Louise and I met, just so everyone knows, we're actually buddies at the Speakers Institute.
Yeah.
And if you want to become a speaker, I can highly recommend the Speakers Institute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it to Louise because I know that she can easily talk for the next half hour. It's really delaying me and it's going through my head. I can't believe how much there is a delay between live and actually it being broadcast. So it's over to you, Louise.
All right. Well, I think rather than just talk at you, because it is always tricky when there's no engagement, I can't feel you. But I'll do my very level best. If you find yourself in a place in COVID where the day is getting to you, then I think it's really useful to walk through a system where you feel the tiniest of progress, even if it's just about getting up at a certain time and doing maybe a daily meditation or prayer or whatever it is for you, and checking in with yourself and setting some little targets for the day and creating a place where you go, right, I'm going to do this, and then I'll go out and do my 1 hour exercise, and then I'll come back and I will shower and get ready and put my makeup on, and who do I want to engage with today? What work, if any, am I doing? What preparation can I do? And if you think about what we were just talking about of where you want to be in 2030, fill that space with something meaningful. So if you're a person who is on JobKeeper or JobSeeker and you find that the money is coming in ultimately, or at least a large proportion of it, and you now have been given this gift of time and no competing priorities because you're not allowed to go anywhere. So in that space, you go, okay, well, essentially, what am I supposed to create? Because, can I say, it's very difficult to be creative and grumpy at the same time. It just is. So if you find yourself in a place of creativity, that space where you can actually lose yourself in a task, whether that's art or music or writing or even learning, then you can actually go, oh, I've lost 2 hours of time today in something I absolutely love. So you choose your influences really carefully and meaningfully, and make sure that where you are leaning into, for instance, social media, that it is from a place of a constructive place, so that the people are going to build you up and not tear you down, so that as you engage, you come away inspired and not diminished. Does that make sense? So that, you have been given, for whatever reason, this remarkable gift of time to pause and do nothing else but immerse yourself into something you love. And as tempting as it is to sleep later and stay up and drink and so on, if you can start creating daily habits that are constructive, then you end each day feeling that regardless, you've achieved something. I heard a great story about a guy who, through this chapter, has actually decided to read 17 books in relatively quick, a relatively quick time. He set himself a goal. And because of the immersion that was capable for him, he did it. And he came out of that place a virtual expert on the subject matter he was investigating. And in that place was to be able to build and construct a business plan for who he wanted to become next. And that is afforded to all of us. You have a remarkable, peculiar set of circumstances which are conspiring in your favour, if you want to see it that way, to prepare you for who you're going to be next. And if you can see it and try and see it that way and take advantage of it, you know how you've always gone, oh, I wish I had more time, then that can be the beginning of an avenue forward. And where it's about, you know, you are with the kids and you are homeschooling and you're turning yourself inside out, maybe you don't feel like you've got the luxury of time. Maybe you're going, Lou, no, it's awful, it's chaos. I've got the kids here and I've got work and I've got this and I've got that going on. And in that place, you just do your level best. You pay attention to the basics in terms of getting to bed at a certain time and getting sleep, and then you resource yourself to perform as best as you can. And in those little moments, you see the gift in creating one thing today that you're proud of. And I know people bang on about gratitude all the time, but, you know, in my friends and talking to them in Melbourne, they are often saying, I'm so grateful I live here, or I'm so grateful I can have that hour a day. I'm so grateful for what I'm seeing or building or orchestrating or feeling right now. And if you can focus on that, then it is so much easier. That said, we are in sunny Queensland and we are not in that situation. And my heart goes out to you guys who are dealing every day with a very different circumstance. And I think sometimes the stress in not knowing is the hardest bit. You know, how long more is this going to go on for? You know, you're trying to sticky tape together and maintain the businesses that you've got, and it is stressful.
Some of us are.
Mm.
Yeah.
So are there any more questions in the chat there, Karen?
So Diana, Louise, thank you for that, because you are totally amazing. And I know that's just all off the cuff. So Diana said that she is actually working, but she does thank you for the advice, because it has reinforced the positive, uplifting thoughts to continue progressing. And she's great, and she is gratitude 100%. So I guess I'm going to have to figure out what all this means and why we have delayed today in obvious response, because Louise and I, we are buddies, as I said, in the Speakers Institute, and we do meet every week. We have a conversation and we normally talk nonstop. So obviously there's something in the fact that we have to delay and really listen to each other, even if I'm getting it a couple of times. But Louise, I loved your idea about people getting into action and planning, you know, in 10 years' time and everything like that. But for the people who have started to delve into their expenses and realize how much money they have probably been wasting or buying things, what would your suggestion be in where to put that extra money now that they've probably decided they don't need to purchase as much as they were?
I've got 3 girls and they're 18. They're 16, 19 and 21. And so this issue of money comes up all the time, because basically in teaching the girls and equipping them to make money, keep it and grow it, then essentially part of my job as a mum is explaining to them, yes, beyond getting an education and beyond getting a job, how do you get to the place where you keep it, which is essentially what Karen's asking. And essentially what I have found works really well is this notion of buckets, where you have a bank account, which obviously money is coming into, and then you have, so that might be your everyday account, and then you have your rainy day account and your Sunday account. So in your everyday account, you have the money that is coming in, and then in your you have your rainy day and your Sunday, and you pay bills out of the account where you go, okay, focusing forward over the next month or 2 weeks, depending on how often you get paid, you make sure you've got the wherewithal to be able to, the resources to be able to set that money aside. And then whatever's left, you can divide into your Sunday account and your rainy day account. So your rainy day is for those things that come up that you weren't expecting, like the washing machine breaks down, or the car needs new tires, or something like that, where you just go, something has come up. But, a third of Australians actually don't have $1,000 in their savings account. And so if you were to just put that one step in place where a small percentage, even if it's $10 or $20 a week, is going into your rainy day account and your Sunday account, then you're creating those pathways of expectation of abundance. So you're coming from a place where you're actually going, okay, when I go to my rainy day account, yes, there is $2,000 there. So when and if I need new tires, I can make that happen. And then you have money going into your Sunday account too, and that's where your dreams become possible. Coming from property development, I had to learn to budget really well, because essentially it was feast or famine. We would generate income and maybe not get paid again for the next 3 years, a year and a half to 3 years. And yes, we were paid well in between times, but can I say it was a long time between drinks. And so in that place, we had to learn the discipline of making sure that money was being put in various buckets so that it could get us through the between times. And so I would definitely say that. And then when it comes to investing, again, I'm not giving any advice. You go with something that's going to give you some aspect of leverage so that you've got the capacity of growth beyond just putting money in a bank, which obviously today, you're not seeing the reward for that. So you do your research, you go with what feels in alignment with you, and then you invest in something that's going to give you a dividend or a return in the longer term. And maybe that's through your super fund. But regardless of where it comes from, you can feel the security in knowing that you're moving forward a little bit. And then from a wellness space, I would also say, don't go too far the other way. So sometimes when we're trying to hold it all together, we find ourselves unraveling. And certainly that was my story. I put so much time, care and attention into building my financial resilience.
I'm glad you brought up the super fund, Louise. Would you advise people to add extra money to that?
I'm not going to go there about, it's too hard. I can't give financial advice, but I'm just going to say, be mindful that you do have a super fund, and be mindful that it is there for your benefit. With COVID, as you knew, we could take out 10,000 and pay down, to be able to put towards things. But I've seen great abuse of that privilege. So, I've seen women take out their 10,000 and put it into Botox and get a new, and put it into, TVs and stuff like that. And I suppose they were thinking, oh, well, I can, this is a free kick. But what they don't know is that it actually does count in terms of their credit rating, that they had to call on that distress money. So just be mindful of that. But as I was saying in regards to wellbeing, it's about balance. So what I do in preparing women for where they become next is it's about bringing the wealth and wellbeing together so that you have capacity every day and you're not feeling like the world is shifting and that you are unequipped to deal with it.
And second stream incomes, Louise, because I know that you have multiple streams of incomes. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, actually, Karen. I'm a huge advocate for multiple streams of income. So the book I wrote on financial resilience, called The Pink Hard Hat, it was quite prophetic, actually, because who knew that COVID was going to happen? But essentially, it was all about making sure you have streams of income coming from different places, so that if one is taken from you, you are not completely bereft going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? So with my daughters, what I do is I teach them the different relationships with money, where they've got an exchange, for instance, of money for time, which is your standard thing. You might be working in retail, and where it's very transactional based. So it's one more head of hair and I get paid, one more room to clean and I get paid, one more spreadsheet to finish and I get paid, one more day's work and I get paid. So it's very transactional. But in that place, it can be exhausting because it's one person doing 100% of the effort. So then what you need to do is to move to a place of greater leverage. And that leverage can come from anything. It can come from property, shares, other people. And if it's other people, then it might be a business where you have a salon, you've got 12 chairs there, and suddenly you've got the capacity to generate income off those 12 people. That's called leverage. So you want to get yourself into a place where it's not just you doing all the work, but you're doing 1% of the work and you've got 100 others doing 1% of the work. And in that place, you can quickly get yourself into a place of greater rhythm and leverage. So and what I do these days, I teach women how to do that in online franchising. That's one way. There are thousands of ways to do it. You know, back in the old days when I started doing this, it was shares and property as the most typical resources that you would draw upon to be able to navigate and exaggerate your wealth in terms of your ability to move forward quickly. Today, oh my gosh, there is so many other ways. And so you want to make sure that you're getting paid for a transaction, for sure, paid for performance, for sure, paid for risk, for sure, and paid for leverage in terms of you doing a percentage and guiding a team of others that are doing work on your behalf and with and alongside you. And can I say, it's a lot more fun as well. So, because you really want to see money as a partner. And, you know, you work for money, and yet you actually also want to have money working for you. So that in that place, there is an easy and abundant philosophy in and around money. Now, I actually have a gift today as well for any of the listeners that are listening in. So,
okay. So, people connect with you, Louise. Is it the best place at the Pink Hard Hat?
Yeah, the pinkhardhat.com.au, and there's a whole bunch of resources on there they can access. And if I can help in any way, they can reach out to me through Messenger as well. So if the two types of women that I mostly work with either have a pathway financially and lacking in wellbeing, and they're looking for greater capacity in every day to be able to have greater productivity, energy, and joy. And then there are those that have wellbeing but are looking for greater strategies around. So regardless of where you're at in terms of getting into that place of well-being and wealth, my job is helping you align the two. So you can find me at thepinkhardhat.com.au, or you can message me through Facebook, and I'm often on that. And we also have a group called the Pink Hard Hat. So I'd love to talk to you then. And as I said, for the first person that would, the first three people actually that email me at louise@thepinkhardhat.com.au, I'd be very happy to send out a book to you as well. So it's been a real delight to be on this show with you, Karen. And thank you for putting up with for the delay, because it has been a little bit different. I had to tap dance a little bit around it.
Oh, thank you. And I have to say, I'm so sorry. I'll have to have you back another time. I cannot believe this happened. It's very challenging. It is very challenging, but anyway, at least we're still smiling. But I will definitely have to have you back on because I just love our conversations. And also, I'm really, I've been on Zoom all morning, so I cannot believe that this has happened. And I've got calls all afternoon, so it's going to be very interesting if this continues on. But I think we might finish it there, Louise, unless you've got something else you'd like to say.
No, that's good. I just want to say thanks to all of you for persevering through this. I know that it must be frustrating because you're hearing the delay as well, but that's life. And the truth is, if there's anything we've modeled today, it's you just keep on going, as imperfect as it all is, because somewhere someone needs to hear you show up today. So whatever is happening for you today, I hope we've encouraged you to persevere and show up in all your abundance, and have a beautiful day. And I'll sign out, shall I, Karen?
And no matter what life throws at you, just go with it. Just allow it to flow. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Cheers.